Alright guys, welcome back to Your Lake Fork Guide. I want to talk to you today about a very versatile technique that I do a lot on the water, and that's throwing a swim jig. We're going to break this down in depth like we always do on this channel, tell you every little detail of how I go about catching fish on a swim jig. That's a big one, dude.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Yeah, boy. There's bang cans in there with it. That's a good 5-pounder right there.
Swim jig getting it done.
What y'all think about that right there?
That's a monster right there.
Oh, I know y'all didn't get to see much of that fight because Mr. Eric's on the back deck. This is Joseph's father, Eric, right here out with us today. And he got it on that 6-inch Divine swim jig too, that little bluegill pattern, so that's pretty fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, man, that was awesome. Popping it over those pads, dude.
First thing I can say about a swim jig is it's just one of the best ways to cover a lot of water, and it also covers a wide variety of conditions. You can catch them in calm conditions, windy conditions, cloudy conditions, sunny conditions. It's just a very versatile bait. You know, as far as the brands of swim jig that I use, there's two brands that I use. This is the Impact swim jig. So you guys know about the Impact brand of jigs. They've got this structure guard on here, which is really cool. Super weedless bait. I'm fishing like heavy grass, or especially if I'm fishing heavy timber or brush, and this is definitely the jig that I go to on my swim jigs. The other one that I'm using is the 6-inch Divine swim jig, and it's just, you know, a well built, you know, like everything with 6-inch, it's well built. The color schemes are great. It looks ready to go out of the package. It always has all the details right, just a really professional finish on all their stuff. And one thing that's neat about theirs is they have this little screw lock on here, and it actually helps you save your trailers a lot. Like, you can catch multiple fish on them and not burn through trailers. And it's just your traditional screw lock like you guys have seen on a lot of other hooks before, but it's kind of a pain to get on and off. But man, once it's on there, that bait's on there, and you're not going to tear that bait up. And there's that screw lock right there. Yeah, so once that bait gets on there all the way and you've got it threaded on, you can catch fish. I mean, I've had days where we'll catch several fish, you know, 10, 15 fish all day long and never have to change trailers. It just stays put where it is. The bait doesn't tear up. So it's a pretty neat little deal. Like I said, it takes a little bit longer to get the bait on there, but it's well worth it because you're good. Once you're there, you're good to go for the day. As far as different colors I like to use, it's really simple for me. You know, this is my shad color I like to use. I like a little bit of chartreuse. Same with the Impact Lures swim jig. I'll use a chartreuse and white on theirs as well. I don't like the chartreuse to be real heavy. I just want a little bit of chartreuse. And I always use on a swim jig a kicker fish, 3.5-inch, or sometimes the 5-inch tail slapper bait. So that's the trailer that I always use every time. Sometimes I'll use that 5-inch and I'll trim it down just a little bit, just to get a little bit bulkier profile. So I use the white and chartreuse, and the second color that I use is this one right here, and it's just a bluegill pattern, you know, pretty simple. And this is one of those 5-inch kicker fish that I had on here that we were fishing with today, and you can see where I just trimmed the head off that bait just to shorten it up. I don't want it to be too long, but I still want it to have that extra bulk and that extra thump with that bigger tail. So this is the bluegill color that I use from 6-inch, and then of course the Impact jig that I have here is a bluegill color. So you guys can kind of see how that, you know, they're basically pretty similar. Impact has a little bit more chartreuse, this has a little bit more orange, but either way you just kind of match it up to the brim or bluegill or panfish that are in your area. So those are the colors. It's really simple. That's basically all the swim jigs that I use, and like I said, I never use anything other than that kicker fish tail slapper for a trailer. And as far as, you know, rod and reel and line go, on the rod, you guys probably hear me mention this rod a lot. This is a Dobbins 704, and this is the Savvy series here, but I like that 704 power and tip. It's just such a versatile rod, and this is, like I said, a versatile bait, so I'm gonna be using it in a lot of different types of cover, a lot of different speeds of retrieve, so I want to have a versatile rod to throw it on. And that 704 is about as versatile as it gets. You can do so many different techniques on it, and it's just perfect for this one right here. Plenty of backbone to drive that big hook home, and you know, short enough and easy enough to use to be very versatile. On the reel, I want a medium speed gear retrieve reel. I want to be able to either slow it down or speed it up because I have to be so versatile with this bait. And that's one of the strengths of it. So I want the reel to be versatile too. So I go with a 6.3 to 1, 6.4 to 1, right in that 6 range to 1 gear ratioed reel. For line, this right here is 17-pound Seaguar Red Label fluorocarbon. I'll almost always throw a swim jig on fluorocarbon. If I'm fishing super heavy hydrilla or some type of underwater aquatic vegetation with it, then I'll throw braid. And when I throw braid, I like to throw it on 50-pound braid. I don't ever want to go to 65. I feel like it overpowers the bait too much. Even with 50, I feel like I'm doing that a little bit, and that's why I always try to go with fluorocarbon. It's not about trying to get the fish out of cover. It's about making the bait act in the best way possible, giving it the best action to get you the most bites. That's about it for the gear as far as the jigs that I use, the equipment that I use to throw the jig. The types of areas that I like to fish a swim jig in, you know, the main thing that I want to look for, I always like to have some type of vegetation. Now that can be a wide variety of vegetation. It's such a versatile bait. That can be anything from cattails, lily pads, hydrilla, coontail, hyacinth mats, alligator weed, pondweed. I just need some type of vegetation that the fish are relating to use a swim jig. That's the number one thing I look for. You know, it varies kind of throughout the year as far as where I look to throw that swim jig. I would say that in the springtime, obviously what I'm going to hit is the secondary points, the places the fish stop on the way in and on the way out. And then of course, once you get into that full-on post spawn and going into summer, if you've got good grass in a lake, the big, long, massive grass flats are always a great place for you to use that swim jig. Helps you cover that whole grass flat to really identify where those fish are holding. Get up and show you guys the retrieves and techniques that I use to go about catching fish on a swim jig. When I'm fishing a swim jig, there's several different areas you can fish in. Like I said, it's a real versatile bait. What we have in front of us right here is just kind of a grass line with some scattered pads, a little bit of underwater vegetation, just a bunch of scattered cover mixed together. When you need to cover that in a hurry, there's really no better bait than this swim jig right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and try to get parallel with the outside edge of this cover, and I'm going to make a long cast, and I'm going to work that bait right back through it. I'll make that long cast, and all I'm going to do is as I'm reeling that rod back, I'm going to hold my rod at a slightly up position like this so that I can feel that bait coming through there. And when I feel it hit something, if it gets hung up a little bit, I'll shake it a little bit to get it off. I really just want to keep a smooth, slow retrieve coming, medium to slow retrieve coming, so that tail is really thumping. I also don't want to take it away from the fish. Now there are times when you'll burn it, but for most times what I want to do is just a medium to slow retrieve. Just keep that tail thumping in a nice rhythm, and when you hit some cover, shake that bait a little bit to get it off there, and just keep it in the strike zone as long as possible. And when they hit it, it's, you know, a swim jig is one of the deals that I very rarely have got on a subtle type bite with it. When they hit that swim jig, they usually knock slack in your line or about to take the rod out of your hands, one of the two. So that's my main retrieve, my standard retrieve that I'll go to. Now, if it's a really windy day and those fish are set up in one particular spot, say on a shallow point with some scattered vegetation or something like that, and they're located just in one spot, I really need to keep that bait in there as long as I can. This is what I'll do. Throw that bait out there, and when I've got it in the strike zone where I know they're at, I'll just shake this bait the whole time. I'll just keep shaking it constantly. And what that allows me to do, if you notice, my reel handle hand is turning very, very slowly. So what that does is that keeps that jig moving, it keeps that tail pumping, that skirt flaring, but the jig's not moving forward. So it allows that jig to stay in that strike zone that much longer, because even though I'm not moving the reel handle fast and the jig's not moving forward, the bait is constantly flaring the skirt and moving around, and it's staying in their face. That's for when they're in one little spot. If you know where they're at, that's a great retrieve to get them to bite. The other way to do it is when you've got some really heavy cover like I have to my right here and to y'all's left, and you know that like on a day maybe where they might be biting a frog or they're biting a ribbit frog, or you can burn something across the top, a swim jig is an option that most people don't use, and it gives them that skirted bait appearance and it's just a new look that they don't see. So you can actually take this swim jig and work it through all this heavy stuff and burn it real fast right on the top, just skimming across the top like a frog, and you'd be amazed how many fish will come out and just react to that bait, because that little tail is kicking right behind it, just fluttering as it goes along, creating a little wake. It's almost like a mix between a wake bait, a ribbit frog, and a buzz bait all at the once, but it's a little bit different look, a little more subtle. So that's another retrieve that I'll use on this every once in a while, and that's a really kind of specific situation. The fish have really got to be in that heavy cover, and they've really got to be eating aggressively. When they're doing that, you know, after you've done everything else, you might run this over them a couple times and see if you can't get a couple extra bites. Alright, and that's about it, guys. I hope you liked that video. I hope it was able to help you. I hope you could learn something from it. I hope it helps you catch some big fish on your home waters. You know, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up for me. If you want to see more like it, you want to see some of the other videos we have to offer, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It'll notify you when we post a new video. You can check out the channel page. All kinds of fishing stuff on there. Be sure to stay tuned to Your Lake Fork Guide. Thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next time. Kind of looks like me, don't it? Big old gut. He's eating a lot of food. I eat a lot of food.